So a couple of months ago, on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, I started a small project for a little bit of fun that I always thought was going to be a one-day, one-off, post a few fun things that I created on Instagram and on YouTube and see how they go. And what ended up happening is it ballooned completely out of control because I started obsessing. They showed a whole bunch of the scenes from Andor in central London. And I thought on Star Wars Day it would be fun to sort of head on out, have a look at a couple of the different locations that they'd use for the show. But this was a really fun experiment to see what I could do in my editing timeline in Final Cut Pro using the tools that are available to me there. And more or less almost everything that I used was either a built-in asset in Final Cut Pro or a free asset that I was able to download from a site where people had created CG versions of droids, characters, spaceships flying past and that sort of stuff. So what I've done is cut together a short sequence. Now I guess for this project what I wanted to do is experiment with how the Lumix S9 that I'm shooting on right now would mix with the DJI Pocket 3, and then also how far I could push those in my editing software without having to do any comps in things like After Effects, creating 3D models in something like Blender, and I didn't use any AI at all. So I thought I'd play that back for you and then break down how I did it with the two cameras as well. So let's roll that Star Wars short. But I'm really happy with what I got there. I really enjoyed putting all that stuff together, and everything you see in that little sequence, so I'll break some of it down now, is just stuff layered on top of each other in Final Cut Pro. It's such powerful software, and I think the results you can achieve are really, really cool. Now look, there's a lot of stuff that's wrong in there. Some of the light falling on characters isn't perfect because some of the character models for things like Stormtroopers and droids came pre-lit, and I did what I could with built-in tools inside Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro doesn't have a relighting feature, so what I used was the vignette tool in Final Cut Pro to actually put shadows and light on the edges of characters and things. I really wanted to try and do this for no budget and not even pay for an additional plugins, although I could have done that as well. Okay, so here we go. Here's my sequence. I've got this intro I don't even know if I'm going to use yet. And I've got this sequence of the ship sort of flying towards the planet there. I think that's Earth. I had to do. And then it goes into the tube train. I love this bit so much. I was so proud of this. So there I am. I'll just let this play a little bit. And I'm there. This was filmed on the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. And I've got it sitting right in the window there. And then what I've done is I've used the magnetic mask tool in Final Cut Pro. To get that, you slide down here to masks and keying. You choose magnetic mask right here, and then you can just select the areas that you want to remove. Now it does help if those are flat areas, but as I'll show you in just a second, this actually wasn't originally. So if I take this shot right here, I've selected this shot from the Osmo Pocket 3, and up in my inspector, I've got the magnetic mask tool switched on. If I switch that off, you'll see what I've done is to make sure I could remove the background as well as possible and not get any weird artifacts or stuff going past. I recorded this sequence when I was in a tunnel, and that really helped a lot because it helped me remove everything, but keep all these cool reflections that sort of help sell the illusion, I think, that I'm on a ship. So let's just watch it back right here. It's just me sitting there. I've got the spaceship sounds that I've added in underneath. I didn't remove the train sounds, I just added to them, again, to try and sell the reality a bit. And it will go into landing. So I've got 2 tracks of spaceships landing sounds. I've got this top layer, which is, you'll see it's kind of me. And then I've got this bottom layer, which is like the background layer to help add some of the details back in from the ship. And then in the middle of those, I've got the space layer, which without that, it just looks as though I'm in a tunnel. But I was really impressed with the results there. So all I've done is I've applied the magnetic mask on this clip a couple of different times. There we go, click that little symbol there, sorry, the little head and shoulders. And what it does is it brings up what I've selected. So on this layer, what I did was I just selected everything outside the windows. So basically all I've done with this shot is just taken 2 layers of the train and myself and made sure that the very top layer was kind of making sure that it kept all the cool artifacts in the window. And so I've got that selected. And then the bottom layer here just removes all the stuff outside the window for me and puts the space background in. And I've got that on a slight transparency too, to let this sort of space background shine on through. But it gives this really cool result, I think. The next shot here was just me, it's the ship landing, so it's just the ship going down behind these buildings, and what I did was I used the magnetic mask tool again to select the buildings, and then have the ship go down behind it. So again, you'll see what I've done here is I've got a bottom layer with the buildings, I've got the layer with the ship in it right here, and then I've got the top layer again, which is the building sitting over the top of the ship. And this trick with the magnetic mask, having a bottom layer, a top layer to bring things in front of my subject to sort of add depth to it, is really sort of secret with this. So after the ship landing, I went to this shot right here. And this shot is probably one of the most heavily edited. Really looking at this for too long, you start to see that, okay, there's some inconsistencies in the way things are lit and those sorts of things. But let me break it down anyway for you. So I've got a lot of small things like this layer here is just a droid going past in down here amongst these people right here. I've got the ship right there. If I turn that off and on, you can see the ship is right there. Now you'll notice that this background here, I'm going to turn a few of these layers off. I've got my ship that I landed on. I wanted to keep that consistent. So it's always the same ship that you see. If I turn that off, then I've got the ship in the distance, which is like the one of the Imperial ships. It's got some Stormtroopers at the very bottom of it and some droids moving around from the original plate that I kept in because I thought it looked good. And that's in the distance to create a sense of scale. If I turn that off right there, you start to see the real Barbican. Now here's an interesting thing. Anybody who knows this view right here knows that this section here is not tarmac. It's not concrete. And actually it starts to look a bit fake when I turn all the other layers off. You can see where I've kind of stitched it together a little bit. But that is in fact a fountain. And you'll notice that I've got a group of assets here. If I double click into that, then basically what I've got is I remove the sky there. So I put in the sky separately afterwards. And if I start to turn these layers of tarmac off, here we go. Here's the original fountain and sort of pool underneath it all. I'll turn those back on. I put my layer of concrete, and then underneath all that to go behind there, if I play this again, you'll see, letting Final Cut catch up, I've got this smoke to help sell the effect and hide some of the inconsistencies and soften it a bit, and then I've got the whole Coruscant skyline in the background, and just at the very bottom I've got a section I've called distance here, and I believe what I did there, I'm going to turn some of these other layers back on again just so we can see everything as it was meant to be, and adding all this stuff on top of each other just helps sell the effect. Double click into my distance file. What I've done here is I've actually taken 2 reverse shots taken from Andor, and I've just stitched them together to get the perfect. If this doesn't look perfect, the reason there's a line down here is because that's actually hidden by the buildings in my final shot, and I just need to fill in a little bit here, and I think it mirrors the stuff over here ever so slightly. I go back to my main shot again, and there it is. I think it looks really cool. I really like how that came out. That's probably one of the fakest shots in there, but I'm still really proud of it. Okay, so if I move into this shot here, this is a nice simple section in Andor. Once Velsartha had walked through all those tunnels, up that ramp and everything to get to that meeting with Clea. Then basically she ended up here, right kind of where I'm standing there, and they had a heated conversation in there in Andor season 1 or 2, I think it was. And what I did is I decided to not try and mess with this too much in the actual show. In the background here, let me just put the playhead there so we can see it. You could see sort of Coruscant disappearing into the distance. They had a much longer lens, so the shot was more compressed. And you could see, I think, a CG-created Coruscant disappearing into the background. I decided to make this my spaceport. So this is an arrivals and departures screen that I found. I think it might be from Star Tours. That's what the file was called. Star Tours is the Disney ride that you could pretend you were flying on a passenger flight in the Star Wars universe. So I was inspired by that. I put a Star Wars arrivals and departures screen right there. So as I come down these steps, it looks like I'm leaving the spaceport, I guess. And then you'll see I walk past some Stormtroopers who are in the background right here, and they are indeed behind me. Obviously, they weren't behind me in reality. So if I double click into this little grouping right here, what I've got is, I did actually crop this originally for a vertical video, which is why it looks vertical here. But I've got a couple of different layers again to try and help sell the effect. So I've got my 2 Stormtroopers in the background there that I can turn on and off. I did actually have an R2 unit coming in, but decided to remove that and put that in a different shot. And then I've just got the background plate right here. So again, it's a very simple series of layers on top of each other. This top layer right here is me walking past. This bottom layer here is the background. And then this layer here is the Stormtroopers right here. So you just stack things on top of each other and then adjust the lighting on them to try and sell the effect, is basically what I did with all of these. A nice, simple, but I think it's quite an effective shot. Hope you agree. Here I am. This didn't need any editing at all. This now jumps to a different location. I'm not at the Barbican Center right here. This is the Brunswick Center, which in the show was at Cyril Khan's house, or his mum's house, that he stayed at. And what I just decided is to use this shot here. I thought it looked very Star Wars, very fun. And then it cuts back to me at the Barbican Center. Now again, this is one of those shots that was really heavily modified in both this shot that I've used and then the show as well. And again, I did something very different with this. So in the show, this was when Cassian and Bix went to a shop. Again, I should be showing you that on screen right now, as long as I could find the shot. And they made this whole area on the right-hand side kind of effectively disappear and look like it was a huge drop-off that fell off to somewhere else. I decided to keep a lot more of the original details intact. You can actually even see a City of London street sign in the background here. I thought I'd keep some of these original details in. Just to prove this is all real world stuff, and I haven't stood in front of a green screen, although I've got all the original shots here. And so I put a Star Destroyer in the background, flying over the city. I've got the city backdrop again, where I did the same thing. I put some sound effects on there as well. The footsteps you hear in this shot are all fake too. So basically, look, let's break this down again. Here's what I've got. I can't remember what some of these layers are, if I'm honest. I've got a Star Wars door here. You notice there's an archway in the background with some very London architecture there. So I wanted to put in a Star Wars doorway to hide that. So I did that. There we go. It looks a little bit more Star Wars now. This one is, well, the entire foreground and me. I switched that off and you can start to see some of my layers. And look, you can see there is Dedra from the show looking out of her window. So that was a still taken from the show that I repurposed for this shot, which I was kind of happy with. Again, I put some smoke in to sort of help sell the effect in the background and you soften things. It's like using a hazing machine when you're really filming. I put in a sky effect just to sort of diffuse the Coruscant skyline. So I've got some clouds drifting past, again, to sort of blend that a little bit more. The Star Destroyer is its own separate. I've got another layer, which I obviously didn't use. It was switched off. And then finally, the main background as well. It's all stacked on top of each other. This is a recurring theme throughout all of these shots. Everything is just a stack of different things that you can switch on and off to try and sell the effect. So a background layer, a foreground layer, all the bits in between to help layer things up. But I'm proud of it. Here's another one where I use the same effect. This is a very simple shot, but always got a bunch of things in it. Like there's a Star Wars control panel that I've added onto the wall there. So I turn that off. and it's just, you see that red light as well is actually part of the stuff I put in. So I can turn my control panel off, turn the red blinking light off. The red blinking light is not a Star Wars asset, it's just one I found right there. And then on these balconies in the background, you'll notice that there's all these stormtroopers moving backwards and forwards. And again, all I did was I just took these walking animations of stormtroopers, cut them off at the waist, or roughly where the level of the balcony would be, and have them moving across the screen, left to right, to help sell the effect, with a couple of color adjustments, again, to help sell that effect even more, put them in shadows to try and make it look as though they're actually in that location. So I go through this doorway, I add this creaking effect. This was lucky this was open, this shouldn't have been unlocked. And I'm in a different building again. You'll hopefully remember this instantly. I've mimicked a shot from the show here to a degree. This is the Brunswick Center. This is where Cyril lived in the show. And I've pretty much left this shot as is. This is almost exactly how it looks in real life. Except for, if I just show you down here, I've got a couple of panels on the wall right here, so control panels that I've added, and I've used lighting tools to light them. So here we go, there's a control panel just peeking its head into the shot there, another one over here, and I just added those in again to make it feel a little bit more Star Warsy. Now, interesting enough, so here I am. As I go through, you hear the end of that doorway, and then it looks like I move across this walkway over here. Now, on the day, the Brunswick Center is a little bit sketchy, and I wasn't sure whether it was safe to leave my camera gear that far. So let's see if I can find the layer and just show you. But I didn't actually walk along there. I got an empty shot and filmed that, and then I actually filmed myself on another one of these balconies with the camera way closer on the same balcony, and then chopped myself out and put myself in there. And it was just to ensure I was a little bit closer to my camera gear. But I think the shot works really well, and you could tell. Let me play it back again. Now, what I actually did with this shot is, although I'm going to zoom in so you can see this, I'm going to go to like 100% there. I think it looks pretty good. I think it looks as though I'm in there. Maybe as I zoom in, it gets a little more unbelievable. But I placed myself onto that. The lighting more or less really did match in real life, but I've actually brightened myself up a bit so it's a bit easier to see me. So the lighting might not look quite perfect because this was designed for social media, perhaps Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. I did publish this to Reels and Shorts in a kind of a less effects-heavy version. I wanted to make sure I stood out, and it was obvious I was in there. So I actually did brighten myself up a bit for that shot. I'm wearing the same jacket. I forgot about that. And here I am just walking through, because I love the location so much. There I am walking along the ground level. Oh, let me put that back on. There we go. Ground level, you can see the control panels are still there. This is a completely different shot, so I had to redo the control panels for this specific shot and make sure I placed them on the same pylons. Although I'm sure nobody would have minded if I had slight continuity errors. For me, it was really important to try and sell that. Apart from that, there's really nothing. It's just the sound effects and me walking through. Such a stunning location, isn't it? I would love to film a real sci-fi short film there, Blade Runner-esque or Star Wars-esque or something like that. Isn't it cool? Here I am, I walk outside, no modification to this shot right here. And this was actually a tricky one. This one, it took me a few times to get right in the edit. This is just a shot of me pointing the camera up at the sky, and then TIE fighter flying out, and then it cuts to another shot really quick. Getting the TIE fighter, I played a lot with the lighting for this shot, and again, I'm not a VFX professional. I could probably do a better job if I had the correct tools for relighting things, but again, that wasn't the purpose of this exercise, to use the professional tools. I was using the most basic tools I could to see what I could get. But I was happy enough with this. I added in the TIE fighter sound effect, spent ages trying to find a good one online. I'll put a link to that down below if I've still got the actual original link I used. And then just had it popping over the building. The difficult part there was because the shot was quite shaky. It was pointing the camera, the Lumix S9, in the air, trying to get this shot. It was really important to me that it looked natural and it looked like it was really flying above me. So it took me a few goes to use motion tracking within Final Cut Pro to match that TIE fighter to different objects inside the shot to make that movement look really perfect. I just did a zoom in. At the time, there was this election going on, this local election, and I thought it was Reform UK, the Conservatives, the Labour Party, and the Green Party. And Reform UK very much like the Empire here in the UK. So if you're a Reform voter, I don't care. Those are the bad guys. Vote for some good guys. And then the Green Party here in a window. And I thought it was a nice kind of connection to the rebellion. The Greens kind of feel a little bit like good guys in the UK. I know it's not that simple. There's no perfect political party. But to me, they do feel like good guys, like rebels. So I zoomed in on that. Then there was just another shot from the Barbican Centre again. Now I'm back in the Barbican. Again, I didn't think this shot needed anything additional. I really just liked it. Very proud of that one. And here I am, one of my favourite locations from the show, because I think this was such an emotional, resonant moment in the show where Cassian Andor and Bix Caleen were in hiding, and they visited this convenience store. And obviously when I visited, the convenience store wasn't really there. So what I had to do was recreate some of it. I managed to find some behind the scenes shots some of the crew had posted online of them actually putting this together. And so you'll see if I start turning things on and off, here's a layer, looks like it's with me and some color adjustments right there. Turn that off, my head gets chopped off. Here is the sign. You can see the Barbican Exhibition Hall sign underneath that. The open and closed sign right there. And you start to see these layers of things. I've even got an Imperial probe droid just over there that I have showing up in the background. But all of this stuff I added in post afterwards. And look, it isn't perfect, but again, I was very happy with these results. Oh, what have I not turned on? The big cardboard sign. I made sure that this actually says closed in Orbresh. That's, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but that's the language from the Star Wars universe. So aside from the shop signs, which are lifted directly from Andor, they're the screen accurate signs that were used in the show, taken from behind the scenes shots from the crew. Then this cardboard sign that I've added in this crate right here were just assets I found online. Oh, actually, no, I lie. The crates were assets I'd found online, and this was a piece of cardboard that I just, again, I photographed an Amazon box, and then what I did was I found a Star Wars font and made sure I translated that correctly, so it said closed. So hopefully for any of the fans, that should read correctly when you look at it. After that, I have the spaceship flying away again. It's actually the same stock asset as we're heading towards. Now this is me back on the train. It was taken, this shot doesn't work quite as well, I don't think, with the cutout, but I decided to keep in anyway. I cut out the background going past. It was a real outdoor background with daylight falling on me. I covered up the tube signs on the London Underground with a Gorman poster because that's where I'm headed next, so doing a bit of foreshadowing. And I basically changed the background and relit this a little bit. I have been experimenting before I published this with the lighting in this, but I think I'm happy with it. And what I actually had to do was stabilize these shots. This was shot on the Osmo Pocket 3 again, facing back across the train at me in an empty carriage. And what I had to do was stabilize these shots so I could then motion track the poster to a non-moving background. And then I actually added the camera shake back in afterwards, which was annoying because even the Osmo Pocket 3 couldn't stabilize this shot for me absolutely perfectly on a rickety old Piccadilly line train, which is soon to be replaced. Okay. The final shot right here, this is another one I'm really happy with. We now jump across London. This is the planet Gorman, where in Andor the massacre happens, or just chilling stuff every time I think about this stuff. And this is actually the square where the massacre happens. Again, in the show, this bit here, this building along here, in real life, this is part of Guildhall University campus in London. I got told off for filming this. I got booted out right after I got this shot. Otherwise, I would have gotten some more. Because it's a university campus. There's all these annoying security guards in London who will try and kick you out of public places. This was one of them. I just whacked my camera down, liked a shot and got it, and then realized when I got it home, this almost perfectly matches one of the shots in the show. And actually then to get that background, the distance, Gorman background in the distance, I found the exact shot that matched it and managed to put that in. So there we go, that's what's there in real life, this church. And I managed to replace it with the background from the show, which I was really happy with. I was really excited I did that. So you can see where I've removed some of the background and stuff like that. All of these Stormtroopers I've added in afterwards. I made sure I went in and put shadows behind them. Some of these Stormtroopers, as they walk past these windows in the distance, you can see their reflections in the windows, and I thought it was really important I did that to really sort of sell the effect as well. But I was really happy with how that turned out. And I think, at a glance, it almost looks as though I'm really there on Gorman. I think. And there you can see where I've stitched it together. I did experiment with putting another ship shot in there. It was actually the same A-wing, I think it is, that I had in the first shot where the ships landed. But I thought it looked just nicer and cleaner and sort of like a bigger space without. I tried to be as subtle as I could with some of these shots. Everything except the spaceport, where I kind of went a bit crazy with it. I wanted to go very minimal with this stuff and just put subtle background elements and use the locations as much as possible. So look, I think I'm really happy with the results from that little one-day shoot I did way back in May, and then the tinkering I did in Final Cut Pro to get these comps. Could the comps be slightly more convincing? Absolutely. And if I'd used the professional software that is designed to do that sort of thing, I'm sure I could have achieved much better results. Again, this was an exercise in just testing out a couple of cameras, the Lumix S9 and the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, to see how well I could intercut them, and then also to try my hand at some really basic visual effects and see what I could do with them. And I hope this inspires you to go out and try some practical visual effects, to comp things into shots, just to augment the reality that you're in, to create a cool sci-fi world, or a world of anything. It doesn't have to be sci-fi, to do some stuff that's really cool and really different. If you have watched all the way to the end, then thank you so much. Please do like, please do subscribe, please do leave a comment, tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, all of that sort of stuff. But ultimately, I hope this inspires you to go out and do something similar and get out there and be creative. Just soon as I do go out and shoot a short film, I will make sure to post that on YouTube. I've got a busy couple of months ahead with a lot of travel, so it might be an end of the year or 2027 thing. My gosh, it's crazy that is next year. Talk about the future, wow. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Go out and create something and share it with me too. Tag me if you do get inspired and make something off the back of this. Love you, bye. Woo!